Am I right?
Yes. The trees, eh?
The flowers.
Oh.
Yeah. Welcome my brother, Honorable Aden Duale, to take over the mantle of leading this great ministry of environment, climate change, and forestry, and at the same time to express a lot of gratitude to the great team led by the two principal secretaries, Principal Secretary for Environment and Climate Change, and the Principal Secretary for Forestry, the heads of departments, the heads of sagas, the CEOs, and members of staff for a very wonderful opportunity I have had in this ministry to serve together with all of you for the past close to 22 months or slightly over. It's been a wonderful team to work with, and I am very confident. I have worked with my brother Aden Duale in various capacities, and I can assure the team in environment, climate change, and forestry that as I exit this space, you are in extremely good hands. And to congratulate you, my brother, for coming on board. It just happens that our main stakeholders in the 15 billion tree growing program was the KDF. Actually, when you look at our reports, CS Duale was highly ranking in his leadership of KDF in contributing to the whole of government approach to the ecosystem restoration program. So we are having reversed roles, but fortunately I remain your biggest stakeholder for the 15 billion tree growing program. So karibu sana. From this moment on, I remain your guest within the ministry. Please. Karibu.
My life in Parliament and in KDF, we were not allowed to make statements off the cuff. And I was telling Waziri that when you go to defense, everything must be on record. So I decided to draft a small speech. My dear sister, Honorable Soipan Tuya, the Minister for Defense, our two principal secretaries, Secretary of Administration, heads of department, members of the Fourth Estate, good morning. Good morning. It's a big honor for me to be here this morning, and as I stand before you as the new Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, first I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has been part and parcel of this transition. It's a very privilege to take over from Honorable Soipan, whose leadership in this ministry has been very exemplary. I have worked with her. I know her capacity, both when she was in Parliament with me, as one of our speakers panel. But as I promised during my vetting process, climate change will remain a major focus for me. Climate change is not merely an environmental issue, but it is the most serious challenge that humanity faces today. Its impacts are profound, it's far-reaching, and is deeply personal to all of us. Here in Kenya, we have experienced harsh realities of the climate change. You have seen the prolonged droughts of the past 2 years, followed by the very destructive floods, which brought very devastating losses of lives and livelihood. They have destroyed properties and infrastructure and public institutions, and despite our contribution to the global emission being less than 0.3%, and Kenya is among one of the most vulnerable nations. So our climate change are both severe and are very urgent. And under the leadership of my predecessor, Honorable Soipan Tuya, Kenya has made a very significant contribution. Our efforts in climate change mitigation and adaptation have been commendable. The National Determined Contribution NDCs and other strategies have propelled us forward in promoting renewable energy, advancing tree planting initiatives, and strengthening climate resilience. These achievements have laid a very solid foundation for our continued progress. As I step into this role, I am committed to building on the foundation laid by my predecessor and the whole team that is seated here. We will continue to strengthen our climate action agenda, promote green growth, and ensure sustainable natural resources management. Our ministry will support effective coordination of climate action by all actors, including government, the private sector, the civil society organizations, and our donor community. We will mobilize climate finance from diverse sources, and we will channel them to support our own initiatives. Climate change is a global challenge that demands international cooperation, and my ministry will champion active international engagement, advocating for developed countries to fulfill their obligation, and it is imperative that global emissions are reduced and that financial, technological, and capacity building support is provided in line with international commitments. Kenya is already a leader in the international climate negotiation. With His Excellency the President serving as the chair of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, we also hold the chairmanship of the Technical African Group of Climate Negotiators. I will ensure that Kenya continues to play a very strong role in advocating for climate action on the global stage, securing fair and equitable outcomes for Africa. For instance, this week from August the 12th to the 16th, Nairobi is hosting a very crucial meeting of the Africa Group of Negotiators and other African institutions. The gathering will focus on developing a unified African position for COP29, which will take place in November in Baku, Azerbaijan. And key areas of discussion will include climate finance, adaptation, carbon markets, and the full implementation of Article 6 of the Paris Convention. Under my leadership, the Ministry of Environment will remain at the forefront of the climate change agenda. And I call upon all our staff, stakeholders, government bodies, private sector, civil society, and individual citizens to join us in this very, very important collective effort. Together we can secure a sustainable and a climate resilient future for Kenya, for Africa, and for the world. Turning to our key priorities for forestry development, we will advance the following key areas. The implementation of the 15 billion tree growing program through the National Landscape and Ecosystem Restoration Strategy. We have already grown over 400 million trees. We will continue this ambitious effort to restore our ecosystems. We will have a program of conservation and management of our ecosystem. We will focus on conserving and protecting our 2.6 million hectares of public forest through social and physical financing. The development of our agroforestry and commercial forestry will be a key priority under my leadership. We will strengthen and give them a better role, community and the private sector participation, engaging communities and the private sector in forestry efforts, and we will enhance forest sector good governance. We will implement the institutional reforms to improve governance in the forest sector. We will involve and innovate resource mobilization. We will explore innovative solutions such as carbon markets and payments for ecosystem services to enhance our resource mobilization. When we come to our environment, waste management, pollution, enforcement, I am one person who knows all the laws that this ministry is dealing with. When I was the leader of majority, I participated in the enactment of all these laws. They have my signature if you go back to history to Parliament, whether it is the Environmental Management Coordination Act, whether it is the Forestry Conservation Act, name it, all the regulations. And I'm sure as we speak today, we have many regulations lying at various stages in Parliament in making sure that the regulation which are at the AG's office are fast-tracked, and working together with county governments, we must make our cities clean. We must introduce a system where every month we are in one city, working with the county governments, council of governors led by the chair, to make sure that we restore back the dignity. Environment is very, very key. It's in the preamble of our constitution. It's not even an article. It is in the preamble that we must protect and preserve the heritage of our environment for now and for the future generations. Nairobi is a capital city of environment. It's the capital city of the environmental world. That is why you have UNEP here and UN Habitat. We must make sure that we work with the UNEP and UN Habitat on all other partners to make sure we tap into their expertise and their skills. We will enforce all the NEMA laws. We will restore Nairobi rivers. And I want the people of Kenya to listen to me. Where the late Michuki left, I want to borrow. I served with him in Parliament, in the 10th Parliament. He's a man, may his soul rest in peace, a man I have admired a lot. He did his part in restoring Nairobi River. Nairobi rivers, the three of them, will not be the same. We must preserve our riparians. We must make sure that the laws that we passed on plastics are enforced. We must have an environment that is clean. Pollution, air pollution, water pollution. The Minister for Water we just left a meeting and was talking to me about what is happening in Naivasha in terms of the flower farms and how that affects the water system in Naivasha. So, and it is not a function alone of this ministry, of government. It's a collective responsibility. Every citizen has a responsibility to preserve the environment. We will make sure that this ministry is the future. The currency today is climate change. So Kenya must have its place. Carbon credits, communities, the new amendment to the law, to the Climate Act, the regulations that are in place, communities must have their role. They must benefit from carbon credit. And above all, I really want to thank each and every one of us sitting here, that all of us together, we have a role to play. Our doors should be very open. I believe in an open door policy where each and everybody who works in this ministry has a contribution to make it better. It's not a corner for one or two people. It's all of us, our corner. So, Waziri, thank you very much. I'm sure you used to have a lot of problems with the ministers in cabinet when it comes to tree planting. And the days, I can tell you for free that with the men in uniform from Kenya Forest, we will make sure that we will reclaim. And finally, we will reclaim all our forest. If you have an idea, if you have an iota of a dream that you want to grab forest land, please you look for another minister when he comes here. As long as I'm here, I will protect the forest. We will protect our wetlands. We have over 11,000 wetlands. We will protect them. We will introduce technology to make sure that even planting trees, we will introduce where even we give our citizens fruit trees to plant. This must be a citizen-driven. Planting of the 15 billion trees must be a bottom-up exercise. It can't come from up there. And one person who believes that they should show the mama in the village, in every homestead in Kenya, that culture must go to them, that planting a tree in your home, in the farm, and even along the highways. We will talk to the Ministry of Transport and Roads that when they offer contracts to big Chinese companies or Kenyan companies to build roads and to maintain them, that contract must include that they build trees along the highway the way it happens in other countries. And then they must also maintain those trees until they grow to maturity. So that as you drive from here to Nakuru, to Kisumu, to Mombasa, to Thika, the road, there must be trees along the road. That is the beauty of an environment. So thank you very much, Waziri. Thank you for making sure that the 15 billion for 100 million you have already done. And I'm sure, as one of the staff said, there is a very robust environmental soldier program in KDF. You have partners there, and you help us lead in that. Thank you very much for listening to us. The CS for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry of my region. I'm the CS for the Republic of Kenya. So I'll deal with climate change and all the effects you have said, from the drought to the floods, have affected all parts of our country in terms of destruction of livelihood and infrastructure. Nairobi, in fact, was one of the cities that was hard hit during the floods. But I can tell you, and that's why I told you, the 11,000 wetland restoration we want to do, majority of them are in the Asal. Asal has a very peculiar issue when it comes to climate change, because drought affects the Asal more than any other part of the country. Thousands of animals die. And working together with the Ministry of Livestock and Ministry of Agriculture, we must even teach our people a more adaptive livelihoods. And that's why you hear issues of adaptation and feedlots being created, so that animals, when the drought hits, there are places where you can keep those animals in big farms and feedlots. But we are coming up, and I'm sure you'll see that we are going to deal with the many challenges that climate change comes from, not only in the Asal, but in the whole country.
In terms of where we are with the tree planting, first of all is to say that we have seen tremendous enthusiasm from Kenyans of all walks of life, the private sector, the government ministries, departments and agencies, the county governments, and it is really music to my ears to hear my successor now, Honorable Duale, really emphasizing that tree planting is not the preserve of this ministry. It is for each and every individual Kenyan. And the success of this program, which is a life and death for us as a climate mitigation action, the success lies with each and every one of us taking personal responsibility, from our children in schools and, Kenyans of all walks of life. Since the inauguration or commissioning of the program in 2022 December, you will all bear me witness that we have planted millions and millions of trees. We have had records from the 2 tree growing holidays, where Kenyans went out and really did exemplary action in terms of coming to the front line of tree planting. The 400 million that Waziri has spoken about is what we have in our application, the Jazamiti application. But by all means, that's not the total number of trees that have been planted. We can only speak of what we have on record. And one thing that Waziri is aware is for us to really stretch our records to the limits, so that we can have a real-time recording from individual Kenyans of each and every tree planted. So on the record, we have the 400 million, but by all means, we have many millions of trees that are not in our records. Also, we have a periodic assessment of our forest reference levels, which should be coming soon. And that is the comprehensive appraisal of our tree cover and our forest cover. And that is when we shall know what movement we have made once we do that comprehensive assessment. And the other thing we have been working on to ensure we have a continuous and real-time recording is to take our Jazamiti application. It is currently domiciled at Carefree in a very small department. We need to bring it to the DRSRS level, the Directorate of Remote Sensing and Survey, so that it's a national tool that then can also have a high resolution capturing of our tree growing activities, so that we can be able to take count. So one of the handing over notes to Waziri is really for us to work on that real-time reporting. But by all means, the 400 million is not the totality of the trees planted in the country.
Is why do we have 15 billion? We are having 15 billion because currently our forest tree cover is 12.3%, and we need to take it to 30% by 2032. So we'll do whatever it takes. And other countries, our neighborhood, have done it. We do whatever it takes as government to make sure that from our wetlands, from restoring our forests, planting more trees, we will, and also increase our forest cover from 8.3% to a higher percentage. On the question of riparian, the laws are very, very clear. We will act within the law, and citizens, laws are meant for citizens and for governments to run the business on behalf of the citizens. So you cannot build on riparian row, you cannot farm on riparian section. The meters, the length are all very, very clear. So there are a number of things we're going to do. And part of dealing with the Nairobi rivers and make sure our rivers are very clean is first to remove all the dam sites along Nairobi rivers. So I think the governor of Nairobi must listen to me, and must listen to me very, very carefully. He must listen to me. We can't have our cake and eat it. If we have to clean those rivers, then we must remove all the dam sites along those rivers. I saw part of the brief I was given was how asbestos is still in use, mainly in 3 or 4 ministries, and it's good the Minister for Defense is here. Asbestos causes lung cancer. We can't wait. We have this ministry has given some 3, 4 ministries: Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Education, because there are a number of schools, Ministry of Health, there are a number of hospitals, there are many private buildings that have asbestos. Let me make it very clear. By December, they must remove it. And I'll take a cabinet memo by December. In fact, the first thing I'll do when I go to office this afternoon is to write to those entities. They need to look for budget. They need to work with the NEMA and agree on how they're going to dispose those asbestos in a very secure, healthy environment. I mean, we can't be a very responsible government where we have our children learning under asbestos, our patients sleeping under asbestos roof, our own security men and women in their barracks using asbestos. I think that is very irresponsible. That's very reckless on the part of government. So Waziri, by Friday you'll have a letter. and you must. And right now, when I join you at the DOD, because it was a pending issue, I'll tell the people there that they must give you budget, and you look for NEMA and the PS environment and the men and women who are in charge, so at least we sitting here on this table can say that we have removed asbestos. The way you remove the plastic bags, at least by 80%. Today, I think there are many countries that are proud of Kenya. So there are many things we are going to do. We will clean the environment. The noise pollution in our estates, where sick people, children going to school. NEMA, you have to change. NEMA has to change. NEMA has to enforce. They have the enforcement powers within the law. where people are building tall buildings, and then you have a building which has no access to the sun, has no access to fresh air. I mean, there must be proper planning of cities in our. We must introduce the coding of the proper coding of the waste that we dispose, between the organic, the dry, the wet. So I think we will pick from where Waziri Muchuki, my very, very good friend, I served with him. He was among the elders that I served with in Parliament many years ago. So he was remembered for many things. Our matatus, our transport system must have bins inside the matatu. Nobody should have the privilege to throw litters anywhere he wants. I mean, sometimes I walk in Karura Forest, and there's a very good way of, you can't just throw the bottle of water you are drinking when you're walking in Karura Forest. And that was done, something done between the Community Forest Association, Friends of Karura, and the Kenya Forest Service. So we can do that, and we will protect all our forests, all our wetlands, all our riparians, and above all, the Nairobi River Commission. The Nairobi rivers must be a reality. We must have a river that flows where you can drink the water. Thank you very much, good people. We need to go to defense.